Okay, I think we're live.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Happy Bitcoin Infinity Day.
Happy Bitcoin Infinity Day. Let's see here. Yeah, I can see us on YouTube. I just muted the countdown.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Freedom Footprint Show. This is our first show.
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here. I think we'll give a couple of minutes for maybe some folks to join us, but
And
yeah,
also those
we're live.
who are already here, please shield this link so we can get more people in the chat. We're gonna
Yeah,
take some questions later.
the thing is, it's Bitcoin Infinity Day, and I've been tweeting and retweeting like a madman all day, and so have Nico and Luke. So we're nobody gives a shit when we tweet anymore. So we need your help in sharing this thing, uh, and to tell everyone that we're live, so they can find us. Yeah, I've had a great Infinity Day so far. How about you guys?
I can't complain. Really good.
Yeah, great Infinity Day. Great. Some nice walks in nature. Can't complain.
Oh, Troy is here. Hi,
Hi.
Troy.
Hey Troy,
Yeah.
good to have you.
So this is being recorded. We don't have very many viewers now, but that was sort of planned too. But we thought we'd kick this thing off here during this beautiful Bitcoin Infinity Day, second annual Bitcoin Infinity Day, and we'll be doing this shows I guess once a week or once every fortnight, if that's the correct term. I guess next Sunday, or yeah, we won't be doing them on Sundays, will we, Luke? We'll be doing them on some other day, right?
Oh, we'll figure it out. We've got some flexibility, so brand new.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got to comment gradually, then suddenly, and I agree with that exactly.
yeah. So this is basically a light-hearted Bitcoin philosophy show, or that's our intention, and we intend to have guests on as often as we can, uh, and talk about Bitcoin and whatever. We almost had Michael Saylor on today, but he was busy doing other things. He did tweet about Infinity Day though, so cheers to that. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, cheers to that. Cheers to everyone participating and joining in on this, because it's more than it's a meme originally from you, Knut, but yeah, it's turning into a lot more than that for good reason.
Yeah, we announced this. I saw some historical tweets. I've been following the Bitcoin Infinity Day hashtag, and of course checking my own notifications all day. And there's like things happening every second, so it's kind of weird. But I saw some historical tweets about what actually happened last year when we came up with this thing. And apparently, the first tweet about Bitcoin Infinity Day was on the 8th of August last year. So that's why when I tweeted it out and tweeted out that the 8th, 8/8, that should be the Bitcoin Infinity Day. And then someone suggested to me that why don't you make the 21st the Infinity Day instead? So that's what we did. Let me see if I can find it here.
While you do that, maybe this is the time to actually go official with this. We've had a couple of minutes, and we've got quite a few viewers here, up to 15 now. That's maybe not
That's
by
not
some
quite a
standards,
few.
but yeah.
That's a few.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Then thanks for everyone for being here. So maybe let's kick this off officially here. So this is the Freedom Footprint Show, and this is our show number 1, our Bitcoin Infinity Day launch party. And I'm going to be hosting, sort of, or keeping things a little bit organized with these two guys here. My name is Luke, and I also go by BTCPseudoFinn, and I'm helping out on Consensus Network. I'm also here with Knut Svanholm and Nico from Consensus Network. So that's us, and here we go. Freedom footprint number 1.
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the show. What are we going to talk about today, Luke? I guess we're going to talk about Bitcoin Infinity Day, and I guess we're going to talk. Nico, you have some news for everyone too regarding the stuff we're doing. For those of you that don't know, Nico is the CEO of the Consensus Network, which is the publishing house that I've been using for releasing my latest book, Everything Divided by 21 Million, which I have here. I happen to have here. And there's a few things to be said about this cover as well. This thing here on the bottom, that's called the Infinity Key. And this is a piece of art that Fractal Encrypt created last year in honor of Bitcoin Infinity Day. And he auctioned out 1 out of 21 private keys, and he sold 210 of the public keys. They were identical, but had different backgrounds on the placard that they're glued onto. And this week, you'll be able to compete in an auction for 1 out of 3 artist proofs for this thing here. I have one, Michael Saylor has one, and you could be the lucky owner of the third Bitcoin artist proof Infinity Key. And all of the proceedings from that, all the profits from that, will go to Hodlonaut's legal case fund, defendingbitcoin.com. I believe the address is defendingbtc.com. I think that's it. The hashtag is We Are All Hodlonaut. So if you don't know about that, that's like my dear friend Hodlonaut, Mr. Cat, and his legal battle against the only person on Earth that isn't Satoshi. And Fractal will be auctioning out one of these, and I'll be auctioning out this book, actually. This is what I've written in it to make it special. It's a hard copy version of this book with this special dedication. I'm trying to make this a special thing. We'll see how it works. The auction starts on Tuesday, I believe, or maybe Wednesday. They're both auctions will be on scarce.city, and all the proceedings will go to Hodlonaut's legal fund, trying to help him fight this evildoer.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning this, Knut, off the bat, because I think in terms of what this means for us on Bitcoin Infinity Day, just in thinking about how it affects everyone and how this whole "we are all hodlonaut" thing. I was thinking about this before we started. If you go to my Twitter and see that, and then I think Knut, you're the same, and many other people are showing their support for hodlonaut there, and I was thinking, is this some kind of, is it virtue signaling to do this? And I think really no, because we all have a stake in what this is. This isn't a battle against just one of us. This is something that affects everyone in the community, and it could be any one of us. So I think it resonates that on Bitcoin Infinity Day we emphasize the unity that we all share. We are
Absolutely.
all
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And people, of course, can always make the case that it's just virtual signaling, but it's a trade. That's all that it is. Everything is a trade, and this is an especially long-term trade. Like, we converge as Bitcoiners as a weapon, and we strike back to bullies and bad actors. And this is kind of like the basis of toxic Bitcoin maximalism as well. But it goes even beyond that, because if you're into Bitcoin, if you understand Bitcoin, and you want a future where your grandchildren can thrive, then this is the bet that you make, and we need to converge together and work together.
Yeah, and the thing about selling your soul or selling your reputation is that you can only do it once. There are no refunds once you sell your soul, and that's why toxic Bitcoin maximalism is so important, because it separates the good seeds from the bad ones very efficiently. And we can clearly see who sold out and who didn't. So we can see who is trustworthy and who's not. And when you interact with those that are trustworthy, you can do anything. A whole new universe opens up when you realize that this is a family member, this is a brother or a sister that is also a Bitcoiner and a true one. Because instantly you realize that you won't even need to use money at all, because you trust each other. So you're like family. And I believe this aspect of Bitcoin to be very underrated. What this having this base layer of truth in society, what it does is that it enables us to trust each other again. Ironically, and it's beautiful. And here you have a legal battle between the most trustworthy person in the universe, as far as I'm concerned, against the least trustworthy person in the universe. So yeah, I know who I'm vouching for.
It's the classic battle of good and evil, right? Everybody loves that story.
Yeah, it's a David and Goliath story also, because this fraudster has a lot of money, and he thought that this particular Bitcoiner would just you know pay up and say that he's sorry, but he didn't. He stood his ground, and yeah, he's a cool guy for sure.
Just emphasizing here, that's defendingbtc.com if you want any information on this defense effort. Now, I think this has already been a little bit of a hint at the topics of conversation, and even just with a little bit of a prompt. Yeah, we get going here. And I think maybe at this stage it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about the freedom footprint idea and about the name. So, Knut, did you have a take on this one to start us off?
Freedom footprint. It's a quote from my latest book, and it's about how how Bitcoin emits freedom dioxide, and that we should all strive to increase our freedom footprint. And it's sort of a play on words to annoy the environmentalists, or so-called environmentalists, who don't really understand that Bitcoin is the solution to any problem, societal problem you can come up with, including like climate change and whatnot. Whatever is wrong with what we're doing now is all based in the fact that we're over consuming. And why are we over consuming? Why does GDP have to rise, to go up everywhere, every year, everywhere, in every country? It's only because of the fiat monetary system, which incentivizes us to spend rather than to save. So that's what we're trying to get away from. And we do that not by decreasing our carbon footprint, which is for the most part bullshit, like extra tax on plastic bags and stuff like that. I heard somewhere you need to use a textile bag 20,000 times to compensate for one plastic bag, because it's so wasteful to use cotton bags because of how they produce them. So regardless of what you think is true or not true about the climate and environmentalism in general, uh, you should know a couple of things. First of all, that overconsumption is always the problem. And second, that a politician cannot solve these problems ever. A politician can only make them worse. So that's the thing. Politicians can't change the weather, and neither can you. But you can choose to realize that which you can do without, you own. And that's what Bitcoin. Oh, that's another That's a cute equation. BTC plus H2O to BTCO2 plus HFSP. HFSP obviously standing for Hashed Final Settlement Protocol and nothing else, right? So yeah, hiring a politician to solve any kind of societal problem is a bit like hiring a convicted pedophile to babysit your kids, or hiring an arsonist to be the CEO of the fire brigade, which you can see all over the world and in all these institutions where complete morons are put in charge of nuclear power plants and such. It's kind of depressing, but then we have this bright orange light in the end of the tunnel, and that is Bitcoin, and it's coming for us all, especially these crooked politicians that are everywhere.
So there is how we get to this name, Freedom Footprint. And I guess the idea, if we're connecting this a bit literally, is that Bitcoin is the means to increase the freedom footprint, or at least that's the hypothesis. Is that somewhat on the
Oh,
mark?
yeah, I guess it is. I was reading a question here. There's someone here calling me out saying that politicians are doing good things. And yes, of course, there are better and worse politicians. But the problem goes deeper than that. The problem stems from unsound money and from inflationary fiat currencies. When the world went off the gold standard in the beginning of the last century, something happened, and finally, when Nixon disconnected the dollar from gold in 1971, everything's been insincere since, to a higher and higher degree every year, because that's where the lies, the all the societal lies that we're being spoon fed, they come from the fact that you do not get into positions of power by being the best you can be and by your merits and what you've actually done. You get into positions of power by playing these games, these political games for fiat monetary gains, and by taking on too much risk and by associating with the wrong people and the wrong narratives, and the Cantillon effect is in full force, and it feeds those that are closest to the monetary spigot, and those aren't the most trustworthy people. On the contrary, the least trustworthy people, because they're the ones that are printing the money. So fix the money, fix the world. It's really true. You have to do. You have to. You can't start from any other point. If you fix the money, you fix everything else too, and you get trustworthiness in all the other layers of society too.
Yeah, I think this is the key point here that solidified my orange pilling. And I think for the benefit of, I'm going to be the most unknown of the three of us here at this stage, but the my path to Bitcoin in real brief is that I was moving across the world to Finland, of all places, and maybe we can talk about those reasons another time. But the process of doing that, I found it to be a little bit easier to put some things into cryptocurrency, and I mean that specifically. I was not yet fully convinced on Bitcoin, and this was the height of when things were, this bull run and all that. But slowly, I started to realize and understand some of these things, whether it be the fix the money, fix the world, to say it briefly, or other ideas related to Bitcoin scarcity, things like that. Regardless, in brief, I fell down the rabbit hole hard, and now I'm happy to be doing some things to help spread the message. So I'm hoping with this show we can explore ideas like this one, We won't always have guests. When we do, it'll be well, we'll talk about whatever we talk about. But when it's just the three of us, or even a subset of the three of us, sometimes we'll try to tackle some of these deep and difficult topics, and so that's my view and my hope for the show.
Yeah, I would also echo that politicians are not the issue. Like, you could argue that we are politicians, we are affecting people's opinions. That's basically what a politician does, and is capable of doing. The issue is the incentive model that fiat currency messes up, and the Cantillon effect, which means that when you're close to the money spigot, no person who has been in that position has ever resisted the urge to line their own and their friends' pockets with the fresh money first. So that's how you see these rises and falls of the empires. And I would say that religion has been used throughout human history to control people. Right? It's not about faith. It's not about spirituality. It's about control. At the risk of rubbing some people wrong, but I'm not saying that being spiritual is stupid or anything like that. It's just that organized religion is very, very eerily similar to organized state religion, which is what I believe that is the common belief now. Maybe it used to be Christianity or some other religions. There was high priest churches. You would go and you would pay your taxes or your dues to buy a ticket to heaven. So the issue is not the politicians themselves; it's the ideas they represent. So, for example, an idea of afterlife, that once you atone for your sins and you pay, most of all, you pay the appropriate fee, then you will get the ticket to the heaven. And in the state religion scene where we live now, in the fiat standard, a lot of people would classify themselves as maybe not atheist, but a-religious, or non-religious. But then they follow
What's
every
the
single.
difference?
uh,
That's what the word
I,
means.
yes, no, I would say that. Well, we can go on for this conversation, but I would say that briefly, that atheism is actively going against religion and God, and a-religious people just don't really give a shit. But however, they do have this state religion and this belief in this new high priest that we call experts and you know whatever
So,
field.
some of
So
them,
yeah,
not all.
so now it's just changed that now you have to pay taxes to kill the cow farts to save the weather. Um, it's no different idea from ticket to heaven, because that's what you're buying yourself a good conscience that you can sleep at night. And yeah, like I think the technical term for like a modern environmentalist is a deluded hippie.
Yeah. The Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like like the religions of old told us that if we just believe in an afterlife, uh, we we're guaranteed to have one. And that was sort of provided a tool for the psychopaths in charge back then to use us to send our kids into wars with neighboring tribes. Today we have the same thing, because the thing that gives our lives value is the scarcity of the time that we have on this earth. If it's limitless, if you were immortal and indestructible, you could always postpone every deliberate action till later on, and you could do that indefinitely. If you would truly live forever, and you were truly indestructible, then you would never have to do anything. So I believe the only thing that gives our lives value, or why we assign value to things, is because we're not immortal. Um, and what our current religion, for those of us who believe in fiat, I think the problem is appeals to authority on the whole, like that we shouldn't we shouldn't replace one religion with another, but we shouldn't cling on to the old one either. We should admit to ourselves that most of these things are not providing any value to what we're doing here and now. And I do believe that you can derive morality from other sources, and you actually can find an ought from an is by studying praxeology and just basic philosophy. I think, therefore, I am. If I act as if other people do too, then my life will have a better outcome, most probably. So I'd better interact with other people as if they were thinking beings themselves. And in being thinking beings, they would have to act, and they would be influenced by incentives. So they would also have value hierarchies in their heads, and they would put prioritize one thing over another uh, at all times, because that's how we choose what we do. So I think that you can very easily derive morality from that, and you can very easily see that violent interactions are not as effective as voluntary ones. Um, I'm reading a comment here. This let's see here. Oh, I
Here,
can't see the chat
I
anymore.
think maybe on this topic, one last point about kind of the morality and the
Yeah, but I'm reading a comment that kind of pisses me off, because morality has little to do with Bitcoin fundamentally. And I think this person is misunderstanding Bitcoin fundamentally, because um, what a statement like that reveals to me about that person is that he thinks that Bitcoin is a protocol or a network or a money. But that's just a tiny, tiny core of what Bitcoin is. But Bitcoin, the idea, is way bigger than that. And I do not mean blockchain, the idea, or crypto, the idea. That's not what I'm talking about here. Because what this truly does, when you realize what you got in your hands, when you know a Bitcoin private key or have access to one, is that there's no distinction between knowing and owning anymore, and you have something that cannot be diluted by a third party ever. So you know that you have something that can store value over time, or that is very likely to store value over time. And the more you have and the longer you hodl, the more you realize that you can be something else than what you are at the moment in this fiat running after every dollar bill kind of existence that you're stuck in at the moment. And you can become a more uh, a better being that voluntarily helps other people. Us three here on this podcast, we don't charge each other for this. We don't try to monetize it. We don't do anything like that. We're just trying to provide value to other people by speaking about these ideas that had a profound impact on us. And I think that's Bitcoin's killer app is you, the individual, and because it empowers you so much, and it teaches you, if you listen for the signal in the noise, and you truly understand what the idea of absolute finite mathematical scarcity means in the long run, is so much more than mere money. It's everything, and it will change you to the core, and you will become a better person, I promise you.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that's so true. Like I like to talk about the flip. Like people talk about flippening, the crypto people. I like to talk about flippening of the mind. Like I see a lot of people in the Bitcoin scene that understand Bitcoin very well in technical level. Some of them are even what I call Bitcoin socialist, which must be the most confused group of humans ever lived. Bitcoin goes way deeper than that. It's not just the protocol. In fact, the protocol is what makes this possible. It makes it possible to have unconfiscatable hard money available to everybody. That's what enables everything else that Bitcoin is. And Well, if you're not willing to flip in your mind into this, like we can totally kind of like start over, like, just division of labor and just helping each other because we want to, not because we want to help each other, because we want to get ahead ourselves. Like everything is a selfish act. So to that end, it just makes so much sense to work together, because you can achieve your goals like we do. If we did this by ourselves, it would be less effective. Now we have three minds that work together. It's not because we want to help each other. That's just a part of it. The point is that we want to get ahead ourselves, and by doing it together, we get there better. We get there faster, and that's the basis of all human civilization development: division of labor and proof of work. So you actually have to work for it. You can't just say words, and that's what politicians do. They just use words to control narratives, and there's no proof of work. And that's what Bitcoin fixes. It fixes the money, the base protocol layer money, that allows us to, like, we call it a trustless protocol, right? But counterintuitively, it actually re-enables trusting others and free cooperation.
Maybe I can take a little bit of a stab at the first principles part of this, because this is again me coming from the newer pleb perspective. I think this the whole concept of the difference between the protocol and then the philosophical morality side of to me, it was all these things that I'd been exploring in other avenues, areas like psychology, philosophy, things like that. And it was all stacking up one on top of the other. The concept of time preference, for example, being an analogy to the concept of religious sacrifice, essentially, in the sense that if you have a society that's just starting to try to get to a lower time preference type thing, they're going to start making religious sacrifices, which is their crude way of doing something that uh, is intended to signal preserving value into the future. Maybe if they're not necessarily doing it quite the right way. But my point in saying this is that the reasons for Bitcoin being so tied to the philosophy that's enabled by this technology layer, and that I hope will have effects into the future. And I think that's the same for all of us. The reason I think was so, it just stuck with me to the point where it's all consuming for me now, is that it just made so much sense once I peeled back the layers and the fakeness of all the other coins out there, or the fiat ideas that were rolling around in my brain. This was the thing that tied just everything together and started to make life make more sense, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think time preference and its connection to spirituality, if you will, can be explained even easier than that. And that is, like, imagine a person with the highest time preference possible. That's a person that owns nothing. If you don't have food or shelter, or if you don't own anything, then you become fearful and you act upon instinct and you just try to survive. That's a high time preference. That's what it is. So fear is on one side of that spectrum. On the other side, what's on the other side? On the other side, there are like what what you can actually do when you know that you will be able to keep your wealth over long periods of time, and that's just endless good stuff. So that's love on the other side of the spectrum. Your ability to love your fellow man and other people. You can afford to be more altruistic. Now, fiat does not do that, because if you're fiat rich, if you're a billionaire in terms of dollars, you do not necessarily have a lower time preference. You can be rich in dollars and still have a very high time preference, because you're scared of losing those dollars all the time, and you have to reinvest them in order not to lose a portion of them. and maybe you wake up every day opening TradingView or some other bullshit unfulfilling thing like that, that is not actually providing any value to anyone. You're just playing these fiat games, shuffling wealth and yield around a game board. And it has very little to do with the deeper insights of life and how to live a truly fulfilling life in which you are proud of being who you are. Um, and I believe the way to get there is to drop your ego. Ironically,
I would add to that is that, there's nothing wrong with playing games, like as long as you understand it. Like if you want to go to a casino and gamble, that's your choice. Like if you want to do that for fun and you get something out of it, go right ahead. The problem is that most people have this idea, even from Bitcoiners, have this idea of looking at the fiat price, and the fiat price is actually quite uninteresting. I mean, it's only relevant in terms of like living today in the fiat standard or moving towards the Bitcoin standard. If you need to use Bitcoin, it defines kind of like what you can get with it. Sure, I can get on board with that. But the point is that most people get into Bitcoin because they think like, oh, okay, Bitcoin is going to go to 1 million, then I'm going to sell it for euros, or I'm going to sell it for dollars. No, that's like you're missing the whole point. That's not what Bitcoin is. It's the same thing as with the protocol level thinking. Like it's also not just a technical protocol. It's also not a get rich quick scheme. It's more like don't get poor quickly scheme or something like that.
Well, I've certainly taken it to heart that it's everything that I want to keep into the future. I think that's Bitcoin is the role for that. I can't think of anything better now that I know of it. And I think I want to also just highlight here that this is I think the tone, a good example of the tone of the topic here for future listeners. We didn't have any of this specifically planned out this time, and I hope we keep a bit of a flexible structure on this and dig into rabbit holes and things like that. But we're not aiming for we're sort of assuming in some cases. I think that that the terminology is familiar and that we're talking to if you're listening that you know a little bit about Bitcoin already and are interested in the philosophical side of it. So I hope that you join us for this. For this journey, because I'm already really liking what I'm hearing so far.
Yeah, I don't really much like planning this like live speech or anything. It's just wing it and go by the flow. However, I want to say that we do have a couple of big announcements to make. Classic announcement coming. So towards the end of the show, so just to make you guys watch the whole thing, we're gonna save those to the later. But it's quite I'm quite excited to announce those things. But I'm also super excited about this talk and really happy how it's turned out.
yeah. Back to Infinity Day and all of this stuff. This ties into everything we talked about also, because a realization I've had in the last couple of weeks, even after I wrote the last book, is that I could theoretically have done all of this without ever spending a single Satoshi, and without even hodling a single Satoshi. That is like a pseudo truth, because if I wasn't holding Bitcoin, I probably wouldn't have, because I wouldn't be as passionate about it. But theoretically, all the help I've got from people like Nico and you, Luke, like doing this thing now, and all the animators, the proofreaders, the editors, the narrators, the artists, everyone I've worked with so far have all been providing their services to me for free. And why is that with Bitcoiners? Why is everyone so generous with their time and their energy? And I've come to the conclusion that there are a couple of factors at play here. And one is that they're the time preference thing. So they have a lower time preference, so they prioritize long term stuff that might be doing good for a long time in the future. And even more than that, all Bitcoiners want Bitcoin to succeed. And by extension, they want all other Bitcoiners to succeed in whatever they do too. So we're all incentivized to help each other. But the beauty is when you realize that everyone on the globe will be a Bitcoiner sooner or later. And this incentive to help one another does not go away. We all get wealthier by helping each other. Like we everyone benefits. So what Bitcoin is doing, and now back to the realization that I could have done my entire Bitcoin journey without ever holding a single Bitcoin. I find that so endlessly fascinating because all Bitcoin did, because I hodled most of the time. Almost never spent a single Satoshi on anything really, just for fun, for a coffee somewhere, or like tipping a cab driver. But mostly I've just been hodling them, or if I have any, which is very unclear. I lost all in a tragic boating accident, as you probably know. Anyway,
You're on boats a lot. I know that.
yeah, I'm on boats all the time and I lose stuff. But the point is that all this is a mathematical and philosophical experiment, or mathematical and praxeological might be a better term, because mathematics is tied to objective reality, praxeology is tied to subjective reality, and they're as hard as sciences. They're just tied to these two realms that we exist in. We have a subjective existence and an objective existence, and we're somewhere in between those two. So what Bitcoin did was, by running this mathematical experiment in the back of our heads, we unlocked something within all of us. And a Bitcoin private key is a key to your heart, and you can unlock something within yourself and wear your heart on your sleeve. Um, and it's back to that trust in other Bitcoiners. As long as they've shown for a couple of years that they are trustworthy by not selling out to shitcoinery or anything else, but just keeping their integrity, toxic Bitcoiner integrity, and keeping those levels high, you know that you can trust these people. I mean, uh, and when you do, there's no need for money anymore. You just help each other. So this is my big insight these last couple of months has been like the real scaling solution is that the necessity for transactions to happen at all using money is going down over time and not up. And the furthermore, like we're entering a future in which people will be much, 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 much more friendly to each other, because you never know how many Bitcoins the other person holds. So you never know how valuable, insanely valuable they can become to you. So doing anything violent or coercive towards another human being can be extremely costly in the future. Um, right now, it's not very costly. Governments do it all the time. They collect taxes and they inflate their currencies, thereby depriving everyone else of whatever they've got. But on a Bitcoin standard, that is simply not possible. So instead, you get to this place where everyone is incentivized to help one another at all times. And I realize more and more that that is the flame I'm trying to catch here, and that's why I'm so in love and so passionate about this societal development, because it's endlessly fascinating. And yeah, I think we've only begun to scratch the surface of this thing, and what it can do for us. Bitcoin's killer app is each and every one of us, and it changes us much more than we can change it. And when you truly understand what that means, that it actually changes us, uh, that's when you get this flippening of the mind that you were talking about, Nico. It's a very good way to put it, I think, because it truly is a flippening of mind. Either it's me going absolutely insane and staring like this, uh, or it's me getting a deep, deep insight here. I think it's the latter. I hope it is.
Knut, I thought you lost your boat in a Bitcoin accident.
Yeah, that's what I did. I lost all of my boats in a tragic Bitcoin accident.
That seems more likely. And you know the point about all of us changing now, I think what I hope to see and what I hope we can explore a little bit on here is the practical effects that we as Bitcoiners can do to influence the world. And I don't mean in terms of exploring specific routes of activism, although right now what we're doing currently with the whole hodlonaut thing is good, one way to do that. But my point, what I'm getting at here is exploring the intersection between the theoretical pieces which take a long time to understand. So let's get into that so that more of us can explore these ideas. But the freedom footprint of it, to me, the implication of that or of increasing that is the practical effects that thinking this way can result in. And I think about the barriers that are put up all around us, whether that be from the state, whether that be from the current monetary system, the way of thinking that others have, the whole consume thing to get ahead of inflation, which is of course only going to get worse in the current climate. But all of those barriers, I feel, just drop away in importance when I think about the changing effects of this flippening of the mind. When you start to see things differently, think about things differently. And so I hope that this intersection of what Bitcoin is doing to us and what we as Bitcoiners can do for the world is something that we can explore here.
Yeah, I would like to, take back to the costliness of screwing people over. What basically Knut was talking about. I think that's a very key point here. Like in the free market, if you screw people over and people can take their money like this elsewhere, and there's no intervention in the free market, I think that's maybe something that is not clear to most people who have, like, there's almost no people who have lived under a hard money standard where it was actually costly to go to war. It was actually costly to make mistakes. And I think this is coming back in a big way. It won't take away scammers. It won't take away asshole people, but it will make it costly to be an asshole in Bitcoin standard. And I think this is going to be the key. But I also think that most people will never really think this way or understand it. They will be, like Knut said, Bitcoiners without knowing it, just like, computers, smartphones, any new technology, people will use it because everybody uses it. It's the norm. Like, people they don't need to know if they're going to use diamond points or, Bitcoin or Satoshis or whatever. It's just an underlying protocol there. So in a way, I also think that fiat is not going to go away because there will always be gullible people. But at least we have the costliness of screwing people over, and we have an alternative. So I think that's really big. And yeah, about the consumerism, which is a huge problem. There's nothing wrong with spending. There's nothing wrong with investing. The problem is what we invest in, nowadays. Cheap plastic crap with a layaway, like couple bucks a month.
That
You
that
get
is
stuff that you don't need.
that isn't really investing though. That's uh, in praxeology you differentiate between consumer goods and capital goods.
Yes, but
Uh,
it
so
is investing. Like, for example, if you buy fiat food, you are investing in your health. It's just a very poor way to do it.
yeah, and every purchase is an investment in that
Right.
sense, and
Yes.
every price is just historical data telling you how trying to tell you how to bet on the future, if you will.
Yes.
Uh,
What
so
Bitcoin did for me is that I used to be one of those people who would get high on the, when you rip off the plastic wrap of a new electronics, and you sniff it, and then you get this high for like a very short period of time. After discovering Bitcoin and understanding what hard money makes possible, now I start to put the value over time on the things that I buy. So, how much value is that going to generate to me? Like, is this going, basically what I'm thinking is this thing that I'm about to buy or invest in going to help me in the future? Maybe bring me more Bitcoin, bring me more of this kind of like reputational, informational capital that I can maybe later then cash in and invest it in something else to make things better for myself and for my family. So that's like part of the flippening of the mind, like from the fiat mindset to escape the change of fiat. It's a tall order. I'm not gonna lie. It was a long process for myself, and we shouldn't treat people who are still in the matrix as enemies necessarily. Not everybody ever wants to leave the matrix, and that's fine. But basically what I'm trying to do is wake up the sleeping lions instead of the herd of the lambs.
I think the
beautiful.
process, even if you become you call yourself a Bitcoiner, and maybe that's not a topic for right now, but maybe we will eventually get into that. But what is a Bitcoiner? But I would consider myself a Bitcoiner, and I think even in the process of that, that doesn't mean you instantly start having perfectly low time preference. It doesn't mean that you don't still want things, or you don't still do things that aren't optimal. But I don't think life is a game of min maxing everything, getting the absolute best out of it. I think we would be robots if that were the case. We wouldn't be people. But the my point is I still struggle with things that I know I know aren't important or aren't going to give me much value, but I'm thinking about it more, and I'm trying to make better choices and decisions. And I think the clarity that Bitcoin maybe provides there is what I think is helping to motivate me to start to build better habits and to do things that are better for my future. So it's not just even a monetary thing; it's a time thing as well, which I think is also important too.
Which are supposed to be the two sides of the same coin. Money is supposed to represent the scarcity of human time and nothing else, really. And Bitcoin is the first thing that that represents the scarcity of human time perfectly. Because there are only two things in this universe that are absolutely scarce and absolutely finite, and that's your time on this earth and Bitcoin. So it's the perfect representation of exactly that. And the only reason why things don't work is because money was always an imperfect representation of time. Now that it's a perfect representation of it, we unlock everything. So that's what it's doing, and it's hard to see at first, but once it clicks, it's profound in every sense of the word. You have the perfect representation of the scarcity of your time, and as you say, you don't have to be a robot and try to do like the perfect action at every moment. That's not the point. The point is to take back the driver's seat of your life so that you can kill your time instead of someone else wasting it. You're a hunter on the prowl for time to kill, and you're the one that's supposed to put it down to whatever use like. Nothing is something worth doing, as Nico says from time to time. If doing nothing is what you crave at the moment, then why not? Uh, as long as you're in charge, it's probably for the best. Who would be the better decision maker for what to do with your life than yourself?
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is that it allows for human individuality in a way that is not encouraged in the current narrative. I'm trying to find the right word for what I'm actually trying to say here, but it's more like you're all supposed to. Everyone is supposed to follow the current thing and just fall in with the crowd and all this and the room for thinking. I also don't want to imply that you can't think for yourself and then reach conclusions that are the popular ones. I think that's also got to be well within the realm here, but the enabling of the individual to take control of themselves and of their own life, I think, is a nuance that is worthwhile.
Absolutely.
I think another point here. I maybe don't want to break us into a completely different topic exactly, but when you say there's only two things scarce in the world, that it's time and Bitcoin. I also wonder if there should be some notice of energy there, that energy itself is not scarce. You can't create it out of nothing. Do you
But
have?
energy is not scarce at all. It's everywhere, and we're bombarded with it from the sun every day. So energy is a tricky term, and I've used the metaphor, you know, monetary energy or subjective energy for describing Bitcoin several times. I know that physicists, or like physics autists, they hate that term monetary energy because it's not really energy, and the second law of thermodynamics and everything. And of course, I understand that, but I would say that the time metaphor is sufficient, because in being the only two absolutely scarce things, it's connected to time in many different ways. And first and foremost, it's because Bitcoin creates its own version of time. So the block height is the current time in the Bitcoin blockchain, as you know. So it creates its own reality. We define uh, truth in Bitcoin as what actually happened in Bitcoin. So it's the first thing that comes from the collective imagination of human beings and then actually manifests itself in reality. So it's not the other way around. Every other collective, what do you call it, intersubjective thing that we've rallied around. Yeah, he's right. Alberto Troya Diaz is right. Energy is not destructed, created. It is transformed. You cannot destroy energy. It's simply transformed into a different state. Um, but my point being that this is the first time that an intersubjective fantasy that we're using to organize ourselves in groups larger than Dunbar's number, around 150 individuals. No other primate tribe ever exceeds that number, because they haven't yet figured out a way to organize themselves in larger groups. We have, though, because we invented things like religions and nation states and all sorts of fantasies that made it easier for like leaders of our packs to organize us into larger groups. But now we have something that does not require a leader. We have an intersubjective agreement about a fixed set of rules, just like the rules of chess. If you play chess by the consensus rules of chess, you can play with every other chess player in the world, or you can play with every other chess player in the world. But you, if you alter the rules, and if you remove the rooks or whatever, then you have fewer players to play with. So, and that's how Bitcoin works too. It's just an agreement on a fixed set of rules that do not change. And that in itself is creating this version of truth that we take for granted to be true, because what happened in Bitcoin defines what's true in that realm. Which is also ties into why you can't have bananas on a blockchain, or why NFTs don't work, because you cannot connect this specific um, type of truth to anything in the outside world, outside of that, of the Bitcoin blockchain. Doesn't work, because all the immutability of it and all the truthfulness of everything that happened in the Bitcoin blockchain are reliant on that and that only. As soon as you connect it to something else, it falls, that model falls apart. This was a lot of words to explain why there are only two scarce things in the universe, but I think it's very connected to time, Bitcoin, in this sense that it's scarce in the same sense that a human life is, the time of a human life is scarce, uh, be, because it ties to the same physical reality as the scarcity of uh, human lifetimes. I'm struggling to find the words here, but I think you see where I'm getting at.
Yeah, and then
It's
maybe
all about
maybe
framing.
yeah, and maybe if I can still try to, I didn't get my idea across very well earlier. I think what when I say that energy is also part of this, my thinking is that you also have a constraint of physical reality in the sense that you can't make more of it out of nothing. You can't harness it if you haven't set up what needs to be harnessed. And so the analogy to Bitcoin is twofold there. You have one, the Bitcoin, you can't create any more of it than the 21 million, and you can't harness it without putting in the proof of work. And similarly with the energy, you have to also harness the energy in order to do that. And I think not to get unnecessarily political, but the current struggles with certain countries, many countries having energy issues right now. I think the point there is that the energy cannot be created out of nothing just because you want it to be.
No, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. There's three things at least that I want to touch. First of all, time is subjectively more scarce than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is objectively scarce, which means that an individual should or probably prefers to trade their Bitcoin for more time on this earth. And time preference of any human being is inherently high. So we would always rather have something now than later. However, uh, marginal utility is something that we jumble in our head all the time, and the hierarchy changes. Like, for example, if you're parched in a desert, then the marginal utility of a cup of water increases massively. So then you would be able to you would be willing to pay vast sums of the cup of water that normally you're not willing to pay almost anything for. So it's not really like we always want something now than later, but also the ability, like a distinct human trait is the ability to also try to plan for the future. And I think this is what Bitcoin enables. It enables you to step away from the constant time preference choices, and then make a longer term investments of your time and also your sats.
Yeah. To add a couple of points to that, real quick here, Nico. I mean, all of these things are praxeological insights, the marginal utility and everything. That's like basic economics, true economics. And I would like to add that that glass of water in the desert, the reason that it has such a high marginal utility and that you crave it so much is because not having it will decrease your time, and you will die of thirst
Exactly.
in the
Yes.
desert. So it's all tied to time, and that's like key to understanding it. But you're absolutely right. The scarcity of human time is more valuable to us than the scarcity of Bitcoin could ever dream of being. That's all we've got. The seconds we have on this earth, that's all we know that we've got. So we better make the most out of them while they're here. Life is not a rehearsal; it's the real fucking clown show. So we should take that to heart and enjoy while it lasts, because there's so much fun stuff to laugh about, like face diapers and uh, yeah, uh, paper straws saving the planet. There's so much fun going on.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta enjoy life. Like, we only have today. There's no future, doesn't exist. Yesterday doesn't exist except in some journals and history books. So we only have today. So it's a delicate balance for sure. But what hard money does, it's a tool that helps us discount today to have a better tomorrow. So, there's also that to consider. And about, hodling Bitcoin, I see a lot of people and Bitcoiners to say like, yeah, I'm just going to hodl on my, I'm going to hodl my stack and wait for everybody else to build the moon. And then we're just going to, somehow we're all going to make it. This is incorrect in my opinion. I don't think hodling is especially important. It's to some degree, it's the basis of actually using or wielding the Bitcoin, or the power of the Bitcoin rather, that it gives you an individual. But hodling as itself, if you're not going to use your influence or you're not going to use your resources to actively act as a human being to bring about a better world tomorrow, then you're missing the point kind of here. And moreover to that, going back to informational reputational capital, like even like you said earlier, Knut, that you could have done your career without spending a single Satoshi. Yes, I agree. Like you can be a Bitcoiner without holding a single Satoshi, and I'm sure none of us hold any either way. Uh, uh, but if you can be useful to people, like if you have this informational capital and you can solve people's problems, you will never go hungry. Like that's the ultimate capital. So you can always make more Bitcoin. It's about the quality of life and the quality of maybe even soul, like if you can say that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to also jump back to the energy part, because I actually love the concept of monetary potential energy, which I know that a lot of physicists don't like that, and I understand why. I don't have a problem with that, but it's a nice analogy. Like if you think about hydro pumps, for example, and a reservoir energy reservoir, like in a hydro plant, like you use electricity to pump water into a reservoir that you can then later run into the turbines when you actually need the energy. Well, in similar way, according to the laws of thermodynamics and bro science of Bitcoin, you can convert that electricity just as well into monetary potential energy and heat, which
yeah,
both you can use, and that's like the energy transmission in this way, the like pseudo energy transmission in the form of satoshis, like it's instant across the globe. Like wherever you have wasted energy, you can block in a Bitcoin miner, convert it into sats, and transfer it to the other side of the world and use those sats to buy energy. Like that's wonderful. Like every
yeah.
environmentalist should be all over this.
These theories have been on countless pods before, though, Nico. So maybe we should stop there, because there are so many resources about this. And if you haven't heard any of it before, look into what Michael Saylor is saying about it, what Troy Cross is saying about it, and there are so many good resources of why Bitcoin is the solution to the energy problem and not a problem in itself. Back to hodling. As you say, I think this might be where we differ slightly, because in the definition of the word hodling, because hodling Bitcoin and using Bitcoin, like it might just be in the definition of hodling, because I think there's a distinction between hodling and saving in that sense. You can save in anything else than Bitcoin, but you can only hodl Bitcoin. Like there's and only saving for the future is a deliberate action that only deliberate, like self-aware actors can take, because they deliberately delay their gratification. Hodling can be that, but it can also be done by inanimate objects and dead people. So a dead person can hodl Bitcoin. The example I use in the book is Hal Finney, who cryo-froze his head after he died. Imagine that he memorized a Bitcoin private key before he did that. Seed phrases hadn't been invented yet at that point. So yeah, so he had to memorize 30 characters. Uh, and imagine we find a way of resurrecting that head in 400 years from now, and the private key is restored. Was that hodling? Was that saving? There's a difference here. And also, as you say, when you hodl Bitcoin, and we've been on to this before, that it ties into I could have done my entire Bitcoin career without spending a single Satoshi. Hodling Bitcoin gives us this superpower to help each other, and the incentive to help each other. So hodling Bitcoin is not only an action in itself, or it's a it that is the enabler, that is the amplifier that makes us take this leap of reason, if you so will, or helps us flip in our minds in order to become better people. So I think the act of hodling is so much more than just saving Bitcoin for the future. Hodling is will change you, and it will change your psyche. It will change your mind, and you will start by hodling Bitcoin and really understanding what that implies. You will start helping other Bitcoiners, and you will start helping Bitcoin succeed, because you're by hodling Bitcoin, you are now incentivized to help Bitcoin in any way you can, at all times, and you realize further down the line that everyone else is too, and you're incentivized to help all of them too, and it's just so beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if that added anything, but yeah, just to
I
tie
would
the
say
stack together.
hodling Bitcoin is like a gateway into becoming a freedom maximalist.
Yeah.
As if you leave it at that, if you don't step through the gateway and you don't start actively doing what you just said, helping others and being useful, then you're just hodling. You're just one of those like pharaohs that we dig, 4,000 years ago. They're still hodling their gold.
Mhm.
Like it's not super impressive.
No, but I think it's harder to. It's easier to do that with gold, or with a precious sword, or whatever, or a crown, or whatever you choose to be mummified with, than to hodl Bitcoin, because hodling Bitcoin um, does something to your head in ways that gold really couldn't. Not in the same way, at least. And uh, just look at all of us, and look at all the other Bitcoin philosophers out there. I mean, there are so many great ones, like Gigi or Giacomo or John Vallis, or any one of these people that are out there thinking about Bitcoin, and they operate under incentives too, and they have this thing running in the back of their heads, this mathematical experiment, and that is what is helping them become people that are, uh, you know, made for helping other people. I'm still struggling to find the words here. Maybe it's the wine. I don't know, but yeah.
I've got a thought here, because all this talk about a couple of things that I think relate to, um, well, people who die, like the scarcity of time. We all have the scarcity of time within our own lives, but I think what Bitcoin does, it adds another thing which can live on after death if properly transferred. And this is the big if, and I know you've talked about this, Knut, but if
Mhm.
if properly transferred, well, there you go, you've just transmitted your value into the future beyond yourself. And maybe you don't have any control over that anymore. But I think none of the things that survive after death you have control over. The only thing I can think of that also survives after death is your reputation, which is the other thing we're talking about here, is the bonds that are beyond this monetary, the reputation of building something bigger than ourselves, and that all the actions done within this public sphere, they
But
carry on.
your reputation is temporary compared to your bitcoins.
Right.
Even if it survives for 10 generations, it's a transitory thing.
Well,
Uh,
and I think this is. I'm going to go a little nerdy here, and I'm going to point out some ancient wisdom here, with a quote. So the quote goes: "Cattle die, kinsmen die, all men are mortal, but one thing never dies: the glory of the great dead." And for those who have no idea what I'm talking about right now, this comes from the Havamal, or the words of Odin. And I'm pointing this out because,
I said no Vikings, Luke.
well, you can't give me that kind of rule, Knut. I'm sorry. The reason I say that is that it's a piece of ancient wisdom, for lack of a better term, that has shown this concept, this reputation type thing. It's the only thing that survives after us. Well, I think we have the new thing now, and we have to come up with our own modern wisdom to reflect this change. That's my point. Sorry for the Viking.
It's a very good point, and I'm only joking with the Viking stuff. You can bring up whatever Viking stuff you want if if it's fitting. Um, I Yeah, I had a point to that. Yeah, if you die with your bitcoins and you announce how many bitcoins you announce to die with, then that's what you leave behind. You leave behind a reputation of a guy that altruistically sacrificed this and that X amount of bitcoins to every other person out there. And that's another thing with the upcoming SAT squeeze that I think everyone is underestimating the upcoming SAT squeeze. 19 of the 21 million bitcoins, 19 million have already been mined, and they will get lost over time. We're the first generation of Bitcoiners. Most of us will die with our Bitcoins. Our Bitcoins will die with us. Not very many of us will have thought of a bulletproof inheritance plan for the forthcoming generations. So, like 20 years from now, most of the Bitcoins will already be gone forever. So I think everyone is underestimating that. And another point about like dying with your bitcoins and taking them with you, theoretically that increases the value of everyone else's bitcoin. But there's another aspect to this, because when you die, you remove a market actor, and a market is only as valuable as the square of the number of participants in it, according to Metcalfe's law. So there's a balance there somewhere where are you worth more than your bitcoins? Well, now the market actually has a way of figuring out what your actual worth is. Forget about this, everyone has equal value. Now you can actually measure your value, and not in like absolute terms of how many bitcoins you have, but if the purchasing power of Bitcoin goes up or down when you die, that's a testament to if you were worth it or not to the market. Yeah, a bit of a nerdy thought, just to sidetrack you.
Well, maybe we should do a show on the Sat Squeeze, because I've done some back of the napkin math, and some of the conclusions are just mind boggling. If we go all the way to there's only 1 million Bitcoin left, the number of Sats that are in real circulation has to be much lower. And I don't want to dive into that right now. I think we should tag this as a topic for future. But the number
We
of
could
Sats
definitely
that are,
talk about it. Yeah.
yeah. Like the number of sats that are going to be an average salary, it's crazy low if it really does hyper Bitcoin. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and you can imagine businesses that their entire business plan is not to have black numbers on their balance sheets, but red ones. and the only purpose of the business is to lose the sats at a slower pace than you would have if you wouldn't have started the business, because they are finite. Everyone's stack will go down. Very, very few stacks have the possibility, mathematical possibility, of growing over time. So a Bitcoin business could increase its purchasing power while still having a net loss in the absolute value of satoshis that business owns, and that's just so hard to wrap your head around. So that's why I think we might need another unit of account than Bitcoin, because a perfectly scarce thing might not make a very good unit of account for any useful purposes. Uh,
This
yeah,
is
and
going on the topic pile.
yeah, it's all tied to how everyone underestimates how profound this discovery of absolute scarcity really is.
The problem with and just a short thing, the problem I have with the set squeeze theory is that I feel like you guys and a lot of Bitcoiners are underestimating the persistence of fiat, right? I mean, already we are in a situation where exchanges are peddling IOU Bitcoins, so that's a way to suppress the Bitcoin's purchasing power. And do you really think that most people in the world will care if they carry or use IOU Bitcoin or Sats? Or are they going to go that, like, this
No,
theory
but
kind of, in my opinion, it lies on the assumption that everybody's going to take self custody, in which way it would work. I just don't see that.
no, but it's not about the majority of the people. It's about the majority of the money,
The
and
underlying
the
network.
majority of the purchasing power. So the majority of the people does not matter here as much as you might think. Like uh, that's and that's a subtle but impactful
I'm
distinction.
not I'm not sure I agree, because I mean, you can just print endlessly IOU Bitcoin, right? I
Yes,
mean,
of
it doesn't
course.
matter how many people you have and
Yes,
how
of
many
course.
people are using money.
Yeah, and you could also pay people in that fake Bitcoin, and but that would make you a scammer. And I guess if you're a true Bitcoiner, you won't scam other people because because
No,
of
of course
how
not.
Bitcoin changes you more than you can change it, and so on. Of course, there will still be bad actors out there, and of course, it will take a lot of time before the world truly hyper Bitcoinizes. But hyper Bitcoinization is first and foremost. There are so many ways to think about it, but I think the like with everything else, if you start from the individual, that's the best starting point you can have. Hyper Bitcoinization is first and foremost a personal thing, and it's not when you start using Bitcoin for purchases. Is when you stop accepting anything but Bitcoin for payments for your goods and services. So on that account, I will happily admit that I'm not hyper Bitcoinized yet, and I don't think either of you are either. And I think very few people are hyper Bitcoinized at this point in time. I think that will take generations probably before we're on it. We can truly say that we live in a hyper Bitcoinized world. The transition is hard. It's hard to function in reality at this point by accepting nothing but Bitcoin for your goods and services. It's very hard to do that, and governments will give you shit for it for sure. So we're just the in betweeners here, trying to live through the transition. But we're doing it for the kids and the grandkids. That's why we're here, right? At least that's why I'm here. That
Yeah, I mean,
sounded a bit arrogant, but
no,
yeah.
no, it's absolutely right. That is, like, everything is a selfish act. There's no such thing as truly altruistic act. Everything is in service of yourself. And yeah, I also think that Bitcoin enables us to build multi-generational empires. Now that, but that's kind of besides the point. Like, I still think majority of the people are not going to be hodlers of last resort. they're not going to understand Bitcoin ever, because they're not going to be interested in money, like most people are not. So I'm just like, it's just something that I've been thinking, like we might never see hyper Bitcoinization in
I
a
don't
way.
think we ever will. I think that is something for like 5 generations ahead.
And maybe
Uh,
even not then.
Maybe even
Maybe
not then.
never.
Maybe never.
I think what we're looking at is the first fork of humanity, to into those who actually wield Bitcoin and those who don't. So I think majority of people are going to remain in the lesser fork in that sense.
I
And that, like what you said, it was great. Like it's not about the amount of people, it's about the amount of money. And like Michael Saylor says that Bitcoin is the kingmaker. I think that's going to definitely play out, that we're going to have these
mhm.
big actors that are going to be kings, Bitcoin kings, and they're
Yeah,
going to have their
you
own
can
following.
knight your children. You can dub them into
It doesn't.
knights.
You can do whatever you want. The point is that the arms race, and Bitcoin is a defensive weapon. It will put such a big gap between the, let's say, 20 percenters and the 80 percenters, that there's no way the 80 percenters will be ever able to attack the 20 percenters. So
I I slightly disagree here, and I think it might have to do with that. I disagree with the wording of many of these. While I agree to some of the ideas, or most of them even, I think the wording is unfortunate because you say there's no such thing as a non-selfish act, and I would say that no act stems from anywhere else than from the self. And by putting it that way, it takes away the negative connotation of it being selfish. Uh, it it may have an altruistic motive, even though that also stems from the self. But calling it selfish sort of puts it in a bad light.
you're right.
Yes. Uh, Having said that, I think there's also another thing that can be more optimistic about this making the kings of the future by giving your bitcoins to your descendants, and that is that even the people that you said 80% that will never adopt Bitcoin, not even 5 generations from now, those are the people that will benefit the most from this anyway. Because what's more important to a really, really poor person is not the poor person's income. The most important thing to a poor person is that stuff is cheap. And if we have a functioning hyper Bitcoinized economy running somewhere in the world, in some layer of society, that helps everyone, including those that don't own a single Satoshi. Things will get cheaper for them too. And this is hard to wrap one's head around, but that's the truth. When you have a machine that is as well oiled as a global sound money economy will be, then prices will go down enormously for the manufacturing and the transportation of every good you can think of will go down drastically. That is already happening now in this dog on three legs economy of fiat economy that we're living in now, where states intervene in every fucking market you can think of. Still, we get the benefits of the global free market. We get to buy cheap TV screens. We get to buy cheap electronics. We get to buy stupid Christmas presents for almost free. I mean, all of this is happening despite government intervention everywhere. Not because of it, despite it, because the market is such a powerful force. And imagine what a market that doesn't have any of these hurdles set up all along the way could do to humanity. You've set up a company in a foreign country. You know the process. You know how much bureaucracy there is standing in the way. How you needed to set it up in another country just to avoid some of the bureaucracy, but the bureaucracy is still there and it's stealing your time all the time, all the accounting, all the taxes, or everything. It's hampering our, if we were just free to live our lives as we wanted to and make however much money we felt was the right amount for us, everything would be better. And that's what happens in a sound money economy.
Yeah,
So
everything will
so
be.
it gets better for those that don't have jack shit too. That's what I'm saying. All the beggars and the bums and the trailer park people of the world, they will be better off, if anyone, from
Yes,
having this free market running in the background of society.
I agree with that sentiment. What I maybe don't agree with is that I think this, what you said, is going to absolutely happen, but in the minority fork of humanity. The majority fork of humanity, imagine a future with central bank digital currencies,
Hmm.
social credit system, censorship of all information. How would they ever touch the free market? Because they are all diluted by these lies of their politicians. I just don't see, like,
Yeah.
some people are going to break through the matrix, but I still think majority of the people will remain in the majority fork just because it's the majority. And this is like this goes very deep into the tribalism of human evolution. Like, you want to be a part of the gang, and as long as the story is good, you're not going to be interested in looking into, like, oh, are there some options that I could go to, because the media is going to feed you bullshit about, like, oh, this is a dangerous place and you don't want to really go there, and you have everything you need here. And I do believe that they will be able to maintain, um, you know good and bad, this kind of like stability, whatever you call that, that is comfortable enough for you to stay in the prison of your mind and never break free. And I just can't see how Bitcoin is going to fix that.
Okay. Before we wrap this subject up, I'd like to just add a thought to that. And li- like right now, we're debating something here, and it's a more optimistic and a more pessimistic view of humanity and its future. And you play the pessimistic Finn, I play the optimistic Swede here. Uh, and what I'm trying to get at, I think, is uh, in the same way that uh, you and I talked a lot about how our thoughts shape our reality to a large extent, and so on. So, how is this negativity helping your reality come to fruition? Like, I see, if we want to get humanity to choose between this CBDC dystopia and the hyper Bitcoinized utopia, we see us three. We see a very clear fork in the road here with two paths to choose from. We could either go to the CBDC uh, China-esque dystopian future, or we could go full Bitcoin and live in the best place that ever existed. So, how is negativity helping people choose the right path there? I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, Nico. You know I am. I
No,
do that
that's a fair question.
instinctively.
Yeah, yeah, of course, same here. And that's a valid question. The way I rationalize, I don't, like, I am pessimistic, I'm not gonna lie. um, I just, it helps me to cope with the reality that I think that is going to happen. So if I can be good with the fact that humanity is going to fork and I'm going to be in the minority fork that is going to do well, I'm okay with that. I'll do everything I can to help anybody migrate to that side of the fork, which I feel that is better, which is what I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to educate people, and bring this knowledge available to as many people as possible. However, I can't force people to unblock from the matrix. I've tried, like, Lord knows that I tried. Um, I just, yeah, I don't see, like, in the best case scenario, maybe it does happen. That would be a fun surprise. Maybe it's just myself protecting me, from the disappointment, the constant disappointment that the fiat humanity produces.
Now that sounds very Finnish. The we'll have to revisit this. Definitely, we'll have to revisit this as its own topic. I think, because I have a different take from either of you, and I think if we're going to open that can of worms up, we're going to be here for another 2 hours. But uh,
Yeah. I think it's time to wrap this up soon, because like we were thinking of having 1 hour shows and we're already doing 1.5 hours. So maybe we should do the announcements and the shillings and whatever. And or were you thinking of some other topic, Luke? I don't know what
No,
else
no,
we have
no,
to
no.
discuss.
And not that the shillings aren't important either, but there are some actual exciting things. The last maybe slightly jokey comment I wanted to make was that if Nico's the pessimistic Finn, and Knut, you're the optimistic Swede, I don't really know where I fit on that, because I'm not either of those things. I'm certainly not a Swede, and I'm supposedly the pseudo Finn, and I don't really care for anything else from my background. So we'll see where I land. Maybe I'm the middle.
Hopefully.
Perfect.
Hey, so yeah, I think let's Nico. I think you've got a few things to share that I hope everyone who's joining us and is still around, and thanks for everyone who's joined us live. Yeah, some announcements exactly. So let's move to that. I think. Are you all set for that, Nico?
Yeah, I'm good. Just give me a second here.
Yeah, so
Well,
I think first up, I'll just mention one more time about the defendingbtc.com, the We Are All Hodlo Not campaign. I mentioned kind of in the middle there. I'm not necessarily looking for out of the show this specific routes of activism or anything like that, but right now I think this is really relevant. So let's check out defendingbtc.com if you want to support Hodlo Not's cause.
absolutely do that. I'm auctioning out a copy of Infinity, or not Infinity. Everything divided by 21 million. This is
Luke,
the
can you share the my
this
screen?
is this is the book I'm auctioning out for Hodlonaut. There it is. So that's my little contribution. The auction starts in 4 days and 1 hour and 53 minutes and 3 seconds. So I hope you do something to help Hodlonaut, and why not use this auction site to get your hands on a piece of Bitcoin art. I know I'm definitely not the only artist on here. If you could bring out Fractal's thing too. I mean, there's a whole section of Scarce.city dedicated to Hodlonaut and his case, where all the profits will go to this legal battle. Mine is just a small part of other real works of art that people are auctioning out. One of them is the Infinity Key. I don't know if you can find that there, Luke, or Nico, somewhere. I think you should probably look for Fractal's tweet, because I don't think it's live yet on the Scarce.city webpage. But
Maybe we'll put it in the show notes.
yeah, it
Yeah,
looks like
we'll find
that's the
something.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely check out Scarce City. It's a great service, and we all need to support
Yeah.
Hodlonaut. We are all Hodlonaut. So
I
use
just
the
hope they
hashtag
can stop.
and donate.
They can drop the NFTs any day now.
Oh, they have NFTs. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good site for buying Bitcoin art, and they are utilizing the Lightning Network, and that's the most important thing. I'd like to show you something before we go on with the announcements.
All right.
That I showed Nico and Luke before. Do you know what this is? Well, Nico and Luke know, but at this point, this is the first draft of sovereignty through mathematics. It was there were some pictures in it. Uh, this was a proofreading copy, hadn't been edited, and this is what the final product looked like. And one of the announcements we're making, maybe you should do this, Nico, but we're re-releasing these two books. My first and my second book here, Sovereignty Through Mathematics and Independence Reimagined, and this is what they look like in the future. They have been re-edited and re-proofread and redesigned, first and foremost, into these nice looking things here. and you will be able to buy them on the Consensus Network website, and where you can pay in Bitcoin and get 10% off. You can use one of our referral codes and get another 10% off. You can use the referral code Knut Svanholm, for instance. I know I'm biased, but I really like that referral code.
And most of all, you until 28th, you can use the code Infinity to get 21% of everything. And if you pay with Bitcoin, that's an extra 10%. So if you're thinking about getting any of these books, then now is probably the time.
Yeah. So we're getting a bit more of a conceptual continuity going there with the books.
Shall we get into the big one?
Sure.
All right. So here we are. Hope you can see that. So we are announcing a collaboration with Mash. It's Get Mash at Twitter. You should definitely check them out, follow them. Really exciting platform. It's basically app that works in a browser, so you can use it on mobile or anything. And by the looks of it, how well it works for this our beta release of Knut's new book. We're gonna do all of our books in this format with Mash. So basically, if I can show you here, like you have a Lightning wallet, which is of course custodian, but I think it works great with onboarding new Bitcoiners or no coiners because I think in the near future they're going to enable credit card payments, which means that you can actually buy Sats with credit cards and then add to your wallet. And from your wallet, you can just withdraw like any custodian Lightning wallet. So you can see my balance here. You can set up a budget for a day so you don't go over whatever you're willing to spend. Our books are going to be mostly a couple chapters for free and then a small Lightning payment to unlock the rest of the book. So I'm just going to show you what happens here. Read now. You get the forward. And what's interesting about this is there's also a boost button. So this is like value for value. Like if you like the stuff, then you can just boost right here. Bam, 5 cents when to boosting this specific page. So that's to show your appreciation of anything that we publish. You can keep reading, and like I said, you can read this on a mobile. So I fully think this is gonna kind of kill the EPUBs, like the traditional ebooks, apart from maybe ink devices like Amazon Kindle and stuff like that. But you can use this in any browser or mobile or your desktop. And let's just go a little bit ahead. That's the first chapter. You can keep reading, click next. And once you reach your two chapters for free, then you're going to unlock. The reason that it unlocked automatically is because I set a budget for myself. So it automatically unlocks, like you'll have no interruptions there. You can just set a budget, how much you're willing to spend, and keep reading. So this is a very exciting way to serve knowledge and books. And I'm super excited with the collaboration with Mash. And yeah, I think we're going to do all of our books. See, bam, just works like that. And also remember, you can every time you can top up. Like I just tested it today. I have a Zeus wallet which is connected via Tor to my personal node with a hidden channel, so I can top up using that. And then later, if I want to withdraw, same thing, no problem at all. If you use Blue Wallet or any other kind of Bitcoin Lightning wallet, it works pretty much the same. It's just like this a small button here in the corner that you can access all the features of your wallet.
Nico, can you put the link in the chat on YouTube?
Oh yes. This is
and
important.
Luke, can you put it in the show notes as well?
Of course.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things like this. We're collaborating with the Fountain app as well. So there's a plan of integrating that as well into the site and being able to, stream all the books via the Fountain app for a small fee. fill me in here if I'm saying something wrong here, Nico.
Well,
How that
most
works?
most likely we're going to use Mesh for that as well, because Mesh
Okay,
also offers a way to wrap audio or video into this, so it's
all
really
right.
great. So yeah, Fountain app is great as well. Nothing bad to say about them. I just think that since we're with Mesh, I think we're going to do your book first in the audio version and see how it goes. And by the way, this is, like I said, it's beta. Things may not work out. So far, it's been working great when I tried it, but we would appreciate if you guys could give us some feedback. You can email us at info@consensus.network, or you can just PM me if you have any suggestions or bug reports or anything like that. So I'm really excited about this. I really think this is the future of consuming books, value for value, using sats. And you don't even have to think of it like using Bitcoin. Like I said, you could use credit cards. So you could actually use, like, let's say that you want to stack anyway, you want to buy some Satoshis anyway. So just buy $5 extra, and then you use that. So you basically transmit euros or dollars over the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which is, it's just fantastic. And don't ever let anybody tell you the Lightning Network doesn't work or doesn't it's not used by anybody. We've been using Lightning Network for 3 years, and there's no going back. After we went to our BTC Pay server, shout out to them, great service as well. We have a self-hosted BTC Pay server running, and it's no maintenance whatsoever. Everything just works like bam bam. So yeah, definitely look into Lightning Network. Definitely check out this first book that we released at 21million.consensus.network. I put the link in the chat. And yeah, guys, let us know how you like it.
Nice.
And I'll just add on here, Knut, you were right also about the Fountain, in that we will be still supporting Fountain on this show. We'll be set up from day one for anyone who's listening to this after the fact on the Fountain app or any of the other apps that support value for value. We're already all set. So as soon as the episode goes live, then we'll be on the Fountain app at the very minimum. And if you are planning to listen to this, or if you're listening to this after the fact, yeah, please consider checking out the Fountain app if you don't already use it, or another of the value for value type apps, because it's a great way to support the show in an easy way, streaming the sats, value for value. And I think, like many other shows are doing, I think we'll probably do something if we get some boosts on the value for value. We'll read the top ones or something like that going forward here. So I think that's one of the best ways you can support the show if you would like. And I think also on that topic, if you've enjoyed this, if you liked hanging out with us, remember to like and subscribe on YouTube if you joined us there. And sharing is also always appreciated if you could spread the word. So we appreciate that if you do that. And one last piece of administration as well here is that this is going live now, but the podcast will probably go up sometime tomorrow. I'm near the end of my day here, and I won't get the episode up before I have to have a sleep cycle. So, but that will come out tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to give a reminder to everyone how special they are for attending this live on this second annual Bitcoin Infinity Day. I can tell you that Michael Saylor tweeted about Infinity Day 6 hours ago now, and that tweet has 4,000 likes and 905 retweets, where he says, "Imagine everything there is and everything there ever will be divided by 21 million." And we have like 12 viewers. So you're very early, like every other Bitcoiner, you're early to the game. So thank you all for listening. I don't know how many viewers you see on your screen there, Luke, but I guess the tweets about this got drowned out in all the other Infinity Day noise. But nice of you to stop by and listen to us dorks talk about these things. Anyway, nice to see you all. You find all my stuff at knutsvanholm.com, and I'm at Knut Svanholm on Twitter, where you can find other stuff too. And make sure to go to consensusnetwork.com and find all the stuff there, all the books, all the translations, and this Get Mesh thing, and all the other stuff. Yeah, thank you for doing this, and we'll make sure to get some guests on in the future, and we plan to do a lot of these. Hopefully, it's I'm sitting in a room without an AC here, so I'm getting kind of sweaty. So it has taken its toll sitting here for 1 hour and 50 minutes. But good to be here. Thank you, everyone, and have a happy rest of your Bitcoin Infinity Day.
Yeah, thanks again, all. This has been great, and yeah, you've got Knut's information. I'm at BTCPseudoFinn. This is sort of my debut at the community, so nice to be with you all. And yeah, thanks again for joining us. Or if you're listening or watching after the fact, please do leave us any comments, or feel free to get in touch.
Oh, one other thing I just remembered. Sorry, Nico, because you get to share your stuff too. Yoni Appelberg announced to me today that he's started working on a new video finally. So we're making some of the chapters of Everything Divided into those beautiful video animations. If you don't know Yoni Appelberg, you should. And you should subscribe to him on YouTube, and you should follow him on Twitter at IONI Appelberg. I made several videos with him. You can find them on my website, knutsvanholm.com, and you can find all the information from there. I'm sure you know how the internet works. Yeah, Nico.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Yanni Appelberg, brilliant guy, does good work. I'm actually reading his new book. I'm not going to talk more about that. You'll find out later. In the process of editing and typesetting that. A little bit of a consensus network, or the Bitcoin bookshop, is that we specialize in translating and publishing great Bitcoin books and literature. Not only books, but also the new thing that we're doing transcripts for podcasts, where we're turning those into books if you want. We're going to translate websites, anything. Like, the way I would say that no translation agency knows Bitcoin like we do. So that's kind of like our edge. That's what we do. We call ourselves the Bitcoin Publishing House. So if you have anything for us to publish or translate, and Knut is, by the way, our first original English author. He's 21 million book. Thanks for that, Knut. Thanks for the trust. We also have Daniel Prince with Choose Life, and we have Alex Swetsky on board, and we are onboarding more and more these original authors. So we're slowly taking over the Bitcoin publishing space, hopefully, and also localizing, like going back to the whole idea of spreading the knowledge. It is also important. Like, that's how we started to do these translations, even for any kind of language. Like, even no matter how fringe the audience might be, the key is to propagate the information far and wide. So yeah, that's our mission, and that's how we are going to build the consensus network empire, so to speak. If you want to be a part of it, you can always PM me or email us in info@consensus.network. If you want to translate anything, or you have a book to publish, or an idea, anything at all, we'll do everything we can to help you get your words out. Personally, for me, if you want to follow me, Omnifin, on both Telegram and Twitter. Yeah, I've mostly been retweeting my the company tweets lately, but maybe I'll get back into writing at some point. But at this point, it's just like, this is what I love about bear markets, so-called bear markets. I mean, Bitcoin has never experienced a bear market; it's always in a constant bull market. but that's besides the point. I like the fact that the noise is being drowned out, and the builders remain, and the builders keep building, and we're going to keep building this bear market and the next one and the next one, because there will always be a next one. But the true believers, so to speak, not to say that Bitcoin is a religion, even though some people think that way, they will always be forged in the bear markets. So especially like maximalists may be forged in bull markets as well, but toxic maximalists will be forged in the bear markets, because that's when you really realize that we have a great uphill battle in front of us to have the better world and build the empire for our children and our grandchildren. So I invite everybody to join us in the so-called Bitcoin Lighthouse project to shed the light and shed the signal. And thank you for everybody to tuning in. It was a pleasure. Knut, Luke, fantastic first show. There's going to be many more. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Great stuff, guys.
Thanks
See
again,
you.
everyone. I think that's it for us tonight. So we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Yep.
All right.
Happy Infinity Day.
Happy Infinity Day.